Hey guys, I'm out here in the shop today and gonna do some chain grinding and have a few guys ask me for a new chain grinding video. I've made one of these before, but it got taken down somehow. Anyway, Elk Hunter 2008, this is primarily for you, buddy, and anyone else who's interested in grinding chain on a Simington grinder. So this end up may be in kind of a two-part video. We'll see how long this runs, but I'm gonna try and show you guys everything I know about grinding chain. And before we get going, I'm gonna throw out a little disclaimer that my chains aren't the fastest cutting chains out there. My chains just cut well for how I like a chain to cut. Everybody's got their own preference on what they think is a good cutting chain, and I'm just going to give you guys the basics of how to get going on a Simington grinder. So let's turn you around and get into it. Okay, so here we are with the Simington chain grinder made in Lakeview, Oregon. It's actually just a little south of where I live. This is a model 451C. And so first thing we'll start with is setting this thing up. Whether you've got a new grinder straight from Simington, well, actually you can't get them straight from Simington. You got to get them either through Bailey's or Madson's is pretty much the only two places I know that sells these new. So anyway, starters, let's go with your chain carrier here. Good place to start's right in the middle. It's where I keep mine pretty much most of the time. I kind of run a little closer toward the front of the machine, or the front of the arm, I guess. But what this does is, the farther you have this toward the machine, okay, say your arm's straight out like that, the closer you move this into the machine, the steeper the angles will be on the inside of your chain, right, hang on, right there, okay? That gives you a steeper angle there. The farther you move it out, the more blunt that inside angle will be. So pretty simple there. Then this adjustment here, you can see where it's got these little indicators here. You can see where I have mine. I try to get this arm up, which you'll loosen this nut here, and then this adjusts it up and down. But I try to get this up as high as I can without cutting too far down into my drive links. Where am I at here? Right here, okay. So you can tell I grind a little bit in to my drive links, but that's okay. The farther you come down, or the farther you have that arm up, the less, the more blunt this top angle right here will be. The farther you get that down, the more steeper that angle will be, and that makes that top cutting edge right there super delicate, really paper thin, and so it won't stay sharp quite as long the lower you have that arm. So hopefully we understand that. This, you know, you got 63 gauge, that's what I run. 50 gauge, you just turn that around. It doesn't matter, you know, this could be straight up or more forward. Really doesn't matter on that part. So now that we kind of understand that, let's talk about how to adjust your side plate angle, which is with this dresser, and then which would be the side of your stone, and then the top of your stone with this angle. Let me turn on some light here so we can kind of see a little better. Okay, yeah. So this dresses the top of your stone, and this dresses the side of the stone, right there. It's really kind of hard to do this all one-handed, but I'm trying my best. So anyway, what I like, so if you've got a Simington from Bailey's or Madsen's and it's new, it should come with a preset grind on it. That's going to get you pretty darn close, you know, just straight out of the box. My grind's set up a little bit different. Everybody likes something a little bit different. But to change the angle on the top of your cutters, this angle here, to flatten it out, okay? To flatten the top of your cutter angle out, you move this part right here. There's a little bolt on the side here, right there. Loosen that bolt and rotate this in toward the machine just a little bit. You'll rotate it that way. And it doesn't take much at all. I mean, barely anything, and that will flatten the top of your stone out, which in turn will flatten your cutter out. Your side plate angle, you know, you don't really have to mess with that too much. You're looking for, you know, this looks almost straight up and down, but it's actually kicked back at about 5 degrees. That's all you need. And to change that angle, same thing, loosen this bolt, and to flatten it out, give less angle on the side cutter, the side plate, you'd rotate it back. To give more angle, you rotate it toward the machine. So this one, for more angle, you rotate it toward the machine, whereas this one, for less angle on the top, you rotate it. So these two are backwards. Just remember that. I personally like to run a flatter top plate angle than what comes on a stock chain. I can't really tell you by degrees. It's more blunt across this way rather than being steeper toward the back of the tooth. This will provide a lot smoother cutting chain in your undercuts. That's just what I've found anyway. You're gonna pull a bigger chip. It's gonna cut smoother. It will cut a little bit slower though. But in your undercut, this will cut faster than a super hungry chain with a lot of angle on the top plate. It's not going to want to give you that, you know, and make your saw bind and stop. So anyway, that's basically that. As far as dressing your stone, we'll get into that here in just a minute. And we'll go from there. So sit tight and let me kind of set this camera up, I guess, so I can try and get this stone dressed up here. Okay, so dressing a stone, once you've got your angles set and stuff, pretty simple. Take your machine on. You just go nice and gentle with it, you know, dress it a few times, turn your dresser in just a smidge, and just keep going with it till you get your stone completely clean. Do the side. just mainly want your stone to be completely clean and have a nice square edge on it. If you're just getting started in grinding, there's a bunch of different stones out there available. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, it looks good. There's a bunch of different stones available out there: white, blue, gray, salmon, and some others. I've been running a salmon stone for a while. I like it. Blue stones I like the best, but they are really expensive, and I have to order them from Madsen's. These I can actually pick up here locally, so been running the salmons. But if you're just getting started into it, I'd suggest running the whites. They're the easiest to dress. You do have to dress them more often and you'll use them up faster, but they're a lot easier to see the corner on your stone. And so that's what your stone should look like once it's dressed. I can get you around there. Move this light over here. If I can get that to focus in there. But yeah. Clean, there's no grease, no dirt on it. That's kind of what you're looking for. The white stones, you can turn your machine on and just like this, and just lightly touch your finger right there, and that'll put a black line on your stone, and that will make it easier when you're grinding to see where the corner of that stone is. The other thing I wanted to mention is you want to get this side right here deep enough to where you're grinding all of the side plate out. All of this side plate. You want to be getting down to at least to where it breaks and comes under the tooth. But I like to go even just a skosh beyond that. You see, I got a lot of gullet in here, but that doesn't affect the chain's cutting ability if you get down under the break. None of this matters. People will tell you it does, but it really doesn't. I've experimented with it in, with it out. Now, if you're only grinding down to about here and you've got all this up here still, then yeah, you definitely have to take that out. But grinding down to here, you can leave that in through the life of the chain and it will never slow you down. In my experience anyway. I'm sure somebody will disagree with that, but that's fine. All right, so I guess we'll get a chain and throw it up on here. I think that's basically, the gist of it. None of this is rocket science, but let me turn you back around here. So let's talk about actually getting grinding on this thing. Now that you kind of understand how to adjust the machine, let's talk about getting it set, especially like Elk Hunter 2008. I know you picked up a grinder that somebody else has used and has their own grind on. That becomes kind of a lot more difficult to get it back to where, it should be. My best advice is get you a new chain, a new square ground Oregon chain, steel chain, whatever you want to run. But, and it's going to take some time, but take that brand new chain and set it on your grinder, grind a tooth with it, and compare it to the other teeth, and then adjust your grinder to get back to you know, get it to that stock profile of a stock chain. From there, then you can tweak it, you know, more or less angles here and there to see what you like. Like I said, personally, I prefer a flatter top plate angle, and you know, like I said, midway on the inside of the tooth, you know, not too steep, not too blunt. The inside of that tooth angle isn't quite as critical as the angle of your top plate. And hang on, let me turn you back around. So the angle inside here is not as critical as the angle of this top cutter plate and the angle, how much angle backwards you have on this tooth here, or the side cutter. You definitely don't want it to be straight up and down or out this way. You at least need to have a little bit of backward angle to it. But if you get too much angle back like this, it really, really becomes aggressive. And so, pretty subtle here, pretty flat angle on the top. You know, 25 degrees is what's recommended on the Oregon chain. And, you know, I'd say mine's probably 20 degree angle, somewhere around in there. But yeah, like I said, this inside, you know, don't get too hung up on that. Like I said, start out, just put this thing right in the middle, and don't worry about it from there. Worry more about getting your stone dressed, and setting your angles for your side cutter and your top cutter. That's the two biggest things there. We'll get a chain set up on here. I know I've said that already, but I wanted to kind of go over a few things. We'll get a chain set up here, and then I'll kind of grind into it and show you some of the mistakes that can be made when grinding, and we'll do that now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and grind this tooth here a little bit. I can't hold you guys right here, and I don't have a tripod to set this up. I'll try and get you rotated here a little better where you can see. And just feed in real gentle. Okay, so I need to go in still a little bit more with my adjuster. When I'm doing this, I'm watching the very point of the tooth, the very corner of it. And you'll see it kind of go away and some sparks come off of it. And then once you stop seeing any sort of movement on that corner, you pretty well got it cleaned up. So I'm going to go not quite far enough with it and show you what that looks like. Okay. I'll get you turned around here and see if we can see that. Okay. So, let me shut this off so we can hear. It's going to be hard to get this to focus, but so right on the corner here, it's hard to tell, but I didn't grind far enough, and so there's just a little bit of a point sticking out right there at the corner. Really trying to capture that, but don't really look like it wants to come through. But if you don't get all the way out to the corner, this thing will not cut. You're better off to have a hook on the under side of the chain, like hooking under the top of the cutter, like under your corner, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I think you can see that's got just a little bit of a hook, right? Like the corner of my stone's actually coming down under the corner of the tooth. I can pick that up right there. You see it? Okay. That chain will cut good that way. It just won't stay sharp as long. So, I'll grind this again and we'll get you shown where, you know, what the chain should look like when it comes right to that corner right there. And that's what you're after. You know, ideally, you should be hitting the very working corner of your tooth or just a skosh under. And as long as you're doing that, your chain will cut great. Okay, so here's a look at one that's been ground too far past the corner. See how there's this lip up there? And then we'll move to one that's, it's really cold out here in the shop, so my chain doesn't want to roll through this real easy. But anyway, shoot, I got a little dirt on there. See if we can try and pick this up here. See how that goes right to the corner? That's what you're looking for. Line on the stone, you know, the edge of the stone should go from the very inside of the tooth straight out to the corner, like that. It's all just practice. It's really not rocket science. Play with it, play with your angles. Without having an extra hand here to video this for me, this is about as good as I can do with it. So, I'll try and get this uploaded, and hopefully this helps you guys. And thanks for watching. Take care.